Hey, howdy everyone. Welcome to the Comic Base live stream. I'm your host, Pete Bickford, which if this macro's working right, I'd have there it is. Unbelievable. Hey everyone. This is the kind of production values you've come to love from this show, and so we try to keep the line. Anyway, like to welcome our moderator here who did the sound check ahead of time. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. And hopefully you didn't get your ears blown out with the intro music today. So if we got that right, just give me a quick thumbs up in the chat. I appreciate the validation on that. But anyway, we'll be talking about a variety of kind of in the weeds topics today. So if you're looking for light entertainment, well, if geeking out over variant codes and updates and things like that is your thing, then you're in the right place. If not, then I don't know. There's other shows. Anyway, guys. But if this is the sort of thing you like, please do hit that like and subscribe button because that helps us, and especially in the first couple of minutes of the show, get things they actually posted out to the people who've said give me notifications that YouTube actually bothers. All right, and I want to say a quick hi to everyone here. Jesse Cows, first in the house, welcome. Fred Sloda, aloha. Are you from like Hawaii? I don't know. By the way, there's a feature that came in with our graphics package. That's the thing that puts up the timer ahead of the show and does a few things like that, like my names. Apparently, they just released a feature to put a map out so that if you mention where you're from when you start to actually kind of map where everyone's chiming in from. I might give that a shot later on. It released like yesterday, and I did not have time to test it. But at some point soon, that'd be kind of a fun way to start the show because it's neat seeing where everyone's from, especially when you get the folks from, Belgium and Australia and places like that. So anyway, but hey, in a case, welcome, Mike Beam, 38 degrees here with snow flurries. Well, darn it, groundhog was right after all, I guess. Andre, welcome. Robbie, good to see you in here. Jeff Schultz from over in Phoenix. We're 71 and sunny. Yes, we are dying of jealousy. And Oro from the Midwest, where I'm never dying of jealousy. Well, except for a couple weeks in like spring and fall. Out in Minneapolis, unless you're from like I don't know, like Ely, Minnesota, or something like that. You're, I think, going to always have the bragging rights on worst weather in the local weather during the winter at least. Tim Kilbreath, good to see you, everyone. Anyway, so let's get onto things. Um, what we're going to be doing, there was no live stream last week because two things. One is is they'd say in the restaurant business, deep in the weeds, as far as just trying to dig myself out from just the sheer workload. The other thing was the ragweed is killing me, so I'm still a little stuffy. You can probably tell, but at least I'm not hacking all over the microphone. But for last couple of weeks I've had this option between being completely stoned down on my head on various allergy medicines, so I can't think straight at all, or sneezing every 3.5 seconds, which is not good for a live stream. So I could not make it happen last week. But anyway, thanks for hanging out with me on this one. Things are getting better now. I think we're turning the corner on the spring, and we'll get through. But anyway, so let's get on with it. What I have been working on lately, and what is I think of interest to at least some of you, certainly has some impact. The first up is Lunar Publishing. So you guys might remember the latest round of the distributor wars. Distributor wars begun. They have. Diamond, I believe, decided in Marvel too that we're tired of giving a bunch of our vig to DC was tired of giving a bunch of their sharing the revenue with Diamond Comics as much. With the point when during COVID where Diamond just had to shut down. They were located in Maryland, one of the tighter states in terms of lockdowns and stuff. At a certain point, Diamond just said, "Look, we cannot distribute. There are no comic books for anybody for a while." And I think that was absolutely the last straw for a relationship that had been strained for a while. And DC pulled away from Diamond, went with a couple of companies formed out of the local distributorships of, I believe, Midtown Comics and one other. Just for selling their own subscription plans to their customers. They scaled those up and said, "Oh, you want to distribute all of Diamond throughout the U.S. and so forth." And I forget the other one, but the one that survived of those two was Lunar Distribution. Um, Marvel similarly split off their business. A lot of it's going to Penguin Random House now, although they're still distributing through Diamond. So that's where we get our information from because our stuff is set up really well to take in information from Diamond right now. We've been doing business with them, buying monthly comics from them since 1994. So it always feels really strange to change that relationship if we can possibly keep it going. Um, anyway, but the lunar thing was new to us, and honestly, based on I think the first distributor, again the name eludes me because after 6 months or so, it flamed out. They're no longer amongst the well they're no longer on the team. So Lunar kept going though, and I thought there was a good chance based on the last time the distributors did this with Marvel and DC with the Heroes World debacle, if you guys remember back in the 90s. I thought there was a decent chance that they might just run back to Diamond and say, we're sorry, we didn't mean it, and everything might go back to normal. But no, it was not to be. At least, a couple of years on, it's not to be. So we have finally made more efforts to incorporate the lunar distribution data more fully into Comic Base. Now, why do you guys care? I mean, it's a valid question. I care because in order for us to import their sheet, with all the pre-production data of what's coming down the pipe, uh, it involves a fair amount of work from on our end, and unfortunately involved adding three different fields to all the titles and the item tables in Comic Base. So in order to figure out what they were calling the different titles, because all the publishers have no incentive whatsoever to keep their title naming straight. It just needs to be unique to their order form. They don't care whether they call the fifth series of New Mutants just New Mutants. They don't care that it's fifth series or whatever else. Whereas we have to keep track of all the titles throughout all of comic history. We care intimately whether that stuff is named right. Anyway, in order to make all that magic work between the naming of whatever they call it on the distribution data that we get and mapping into Comic Base, we have to have some kind of key that matches the two. And the secret for a lot of this stuff is for Diamond, it's their Diamond series code. It's in their case, it's about a 5-digit number, which says, well, okay, Batman is 3614 if memory serves. Um, some of this is coincidental with part of the barcode. Most of it isn't. But anyway, there's a supposedly unique number that all the Batman and Robin and whatever other titles map onto. And once we've had one of our editorial guys match that once, then the next time we see a series code come in from Batman, even if they changed some aspect of the name on it, we say, oh, okay, well, that looks like it matches to Batman, and we can file it away more rapidly as we go through the sheets. Um, Anyway, unfortunately, all that data that we did mapping for Diamond is now moot for Lunar, and for about a year or more, our poor content entry team has been doing all this entry just purely by hand, and it's been taking them forever. And it's time to end that. So, as luck would have it, they have to have a Lunar series code, not the same as a Diamond series code, not the same as the name of a title, and that's the magic to secret sauce to mapping all that stuff. Similarly, when they're talking about Batman, fifth, third series number 135 C variant, that'll have once upon a time it had a diamond stock number and a diamond order code. You had to have both of them because one of them was the number you used when you ordered it the regular month. The other one was when you go through the reorder system and say, I need another copy. Diamond pioneered the idea of having two numbers for everything, and Lunar said, well, obviously a wonderful idea. Let's have two numbers for everything we do too. So they have a lunar code and a lunar alt code for every item. So that's fabulous. Anyway, so we have to add all this stuff to all the tables in Comic Base that handle item information, whether it's a book or a magazine or a comic, so that we can pass this information down the line. And anytime we add this kind of data, something that impacts both us and our corrections process and our data ingestion process, and also the updates process, it means it has to be able to pass through all these stages of being shoved, around our back end servers and sent down to you folks and, uploaded as corrections and everything else. And so there's a lot of testing. There's a lot of code that needs to go in place to add just any one field, even if it's a virtual carbon copy of a field that we had before. So anyway, that's what I've been working on all this time. The reason you guys possibly, I mean, there's two reasons to care, right? Other than, oh, okay, that's why Pete has extra baggy eyes, lines under his eyes this weekend. Number one is if you guys ever if you guys ever are used to giving your local comic retailer like a pull and hold list or a subscription list, one of the things they might ask for on that is you say, hey, I want to get the new Batman series, or I want to get this, I want to get cover C of Batman number 135. You can actually give them the diamond stock number, and now in this case the lunar code that goes along with that one, so they don't misorder and get you the wrong cover, and so they can know exactly what you're talking about. And honestly, your local comic store probably really appreciates if you give them the code that they need to enter to put in your order. So you can add those to a list of yours, mark them in your comic base, give, say, use one of the custom fields to say like, wanted, or, and just do a find of all my wanted items that are shipping this week. Print that out as a quick report, hand it to your local comic shop, and let them know what you want. That's often a way that some people make use of the information. Another thing, obviously, is if you are a retailer yourself and you want to integrate the information comic base with your own point of sale system or your own order entry system, it's nice to have these codes around. And these codes, they're both visible in the detail views of the issues and titles in question. They're exportable as lists if you have the Pro and Up versions. If you're going to be posting your inventory to using the retailer APIs, we're going to be adding those to the file format for the comic base interchange file formats and so forth, and so on. So yes, it's all part of this merry comic book ecosystem we have going on here. And so this is a thing that we're doing. All right. I've been yapping for a while. So Xanadu Comics says hello, as does our mod Craig Heck. Don't mess with you or I'll reboot you harder than the DCU. Oh my god. Yeah, at some point we're gonna have to have just a talk on reboots. Because man, I have thoughts so much. Anyway, so I think we're good here. All right, sound is good. All right, great here. All right, so um the other spillover effect of all this lunar stuff is we're finally going to be getting a little bit more, well, I don't know. You could see this one as a good or as a bad, and honestly, I'm open to both interpretations of this one. Is we're surrendering in large part on the idea of fighting the publishers on trying to determine what is a regular cover. So Diamond, when we were ingesting most of our order data from Diamond, they were a little better about letting you know, hey, this is the regular cover. Lunar is absolutely brutal. The data as it comes from Lunar is just as, yeah, Batman 135, cover A, cover B, cover C, cover D, cover E, cover F, and as they go, they'll tell you, okay, you got to order 25 copies to get this one. You got to order 50 copies to get that one there. They'll tell you some other restrictions around it. That's good. It's a little easier to put that information in a more, tight format when we do our item, descriptions for everything. But there's you'd be like reading tea leaves to try to figure out which one's the regular cover. You could say, well, which one's the cheapest cover? Sometimes, like currently with DC, they're basically doing one kind of regular-ish cover and then a bunch of cardstock covers. But then, cardstock versus the other isn't necessarily the deal, nor is the order, the price necessarily definitive when you get to the ones where like, well, this one's clearly I can order, if I order 25 of something else, then I'm allowed to order the e-cover, and that one might be $3.99, but it's it's going to be very expensive when you sell it on the other end. It's crazy. Anyway, but the long and the short of it is we give up. It's unless you're going to literally say, as they rarely do on the Diamond order form. Matter of fact, at this point, variants are getting so overwhelming in the comic space that it took us a while hunting through the Lunar order form to find something that wasn't a variant, which I think the first one of this month was Batman and Scooby-Doo Mysteries, number 8 or whatever it was. Yeah, so but unless they're gonna literally say, "Yeah, there are no variants for this one," yeah, we're gonna list it the way they list them, which means there's the first one is gonna be A, if they say it's A, it's then the second one's gonna be B, and so forth. This is probably an improvement over what we were doing in the last several months, where if we could, especially going manually, if we could tease out somehow, with a humor behind a human looking at the whole thing, well, this seems to be the cover they mean to be the regular cover. We would typically give that one the ordinal number. So if it was issue number 135, then okay, the cheap cover be 135, and then the next one would be 135A, 135B, 135C, etc., which put us at odds with the order form itself, at least as it comes from Lunar. And honestly, I can't defend it anymore. I think it's too the assumption in the comics market is really no longer that there is a regular cover with most Marvel and DC items. It's a rare one that doesn't have a variant at this point. I think, according to the recent round of information that we dug up for David Harper, I think we're up to like 3.77 variants versions on average for every regular comic book released in the United States these days. The idea that there's just a cover of an issue is it's now by far the minority position, to the extent of almost, 1 in 5, 20% ish of comics are like that. So anyway, we're not gonna try so hard to tease that out anymore. It's probably a little bit of a bummer uh, if you are not in the variant game yourself, because I guess then you're in the same deck, that our poor editors were beforehand, where as you get to the order form, you also would have to try to tease out what the regular-ish cover is if they don't tell you, as opposed to in the past, we would have tried to make that call for you. But I surrender. I don't think we can defend what we were doing beforehand, especially as it put us at odds with other people who are trying to ingest the lunar order form and seeing things labeled A, B, C, D, E, F, G right on the order form, whether they were the variants or not, explicitly. And we were only off by one on that. And so I don't think we're helping anything with what we were doing. So we quit. And starting probably this next month, you'll start seeing things that are much more in line, at least with the lunar version of ordering things, and diamonds probably to follow. Okay. With that said, other things that are kind of on the good side of things, because I hate to be all grim about the variant situation. Yeah, and look, I'm being grim because I'm not a huge fan of variants. I mean, to me, I think they largely come off as a cash grab. Other people dig them, so if you're one of the people who digs them, then ignore my negativity. It's not your problem. And clearly, the industry has decided that variants are the way to go, and we're fighting the tide if we're saying we're basing anything on standing against them. So again, I surrender. Um, but anyway, one thing that we're doing a little bit better than we did in the past is we're standardizing how we are listing variants, as much as is all humanly possible. We came up with a not particularly lightweight, but at least a standardized, preferred format for how we would like to talk about variants. And I'll put it out in the forums because it doesn't describe very well, and it's not going to make a very good screenshot on the live stream. But for instance, the long and short comes down to is if there is a scarcity factor, like a 1 in 25, 1 in 50, and but when we're doing this, if you're not deep into the lore, what this means is as a retailer, you're required to order 10 copies of some other version of this thing to be allowed to buy one copy of the particular variant in question. That's that if it's a 1 in 10. Sometimes it's a 1 in 4, a 1 in 8, a 1 in 25, a 1 in 50. I've seen them go as high as 1 in 500. I don't think I've ever seen one worse than that, but because at that point you're talking about a comic book whose base price probably starts at 300-400 bucks because of how very many comic books you'd have to have bought in order to even be allowed to get one of that cover. And yes, Redstone, yeah, I'm thinking of you. Um, but if there is a scarcity factor, we're trying to list that first. So, if you see, you'll see listings like, 1 in 25 cover, and then we're trying to name the cover E, describe the cover, which would then be like, say, cardstock, and then say buy, and then the name of the artist, right? So, So if there's a scarcity factor, you put that first, then, uh, and then cover A, cover B, cover C, cover D, all the way through cover V 1,073,000, whatever it comes down to. And then whenever possible, buy the name of the cover artist. If the cover artist isn't listed, or if it's like TBD or various or things like that, but then obviously we're not going to say buy TBD. We're just going to say cover F. Um, we're going to use the variant description as it comes off the order form whenever possible. So if it's the foil cover, that'll be if the cardstock cover, etc. With DC, I've noticed, for instance, just with the latest Batman, they don't have one cardstock cover; they have like 4 of them, and that's why you have to always list the artist. Now, look, me personally, I like the longer descriptions that say things like with red background and red Sonya pulling arrow out of monster, or whatever the thing is, because then I can actually look at the description, look at the thing, and know which one I'm talking about. But just for economy's sake and for sake of standardization, I think we're going to go more towards that kind of format. So anyway, I'll try to put that up on the website. And if you guys have particular feedback on the whole thing, please let us know. Ironically, I'm going to say Lunar is more in line, at least if you're careful about how you pull apart the different bits of data they give you in the different fields and assemble them in the correct order, stripping out all the redundant stuff. Like Lunar will do things like listing the paper stock. Good Lord, I do not care whether this is LMUAFO, paper stock, which I couldn't even find what that was, but apparently it's some kind of grade of paper. Um, but anyway, if you do strip all the stuff out there, Lunar is actually a little bit easier to process. We're actually going to have to do more work on getting the diamond stuff into that format to be a little bit tighter, but we are going to try to do that. All right. So anyway, I've been babbling about that one. Fritz, Fritz, not Hawaiian, just like this the symmetry of the multi-purpose aloha. I can see it coming, going right on. Oh, Mod wants to remind everyone: like and subscribe, smash button. All right. Let's see. Jet Seakai says you should make up some comic-based T-shirts like the one you have and put them up for sale. Yeah, it's funny. It's almost like as a point of honor, I've avoided using our own trade show shirts during the entire run of the live stream. I think this is probably the first time I've been on camera actually wearing our trade show shirts. And this one, you can tell, it's been worn so many times it's no longer exactly black. It's been laundered 7,000 times. But yeah, we used to if you join staff at Comic Base, you wind up with like 2 or 3 copies of the a polo shirt in your size, to use during a trade, convention. The idea being that you hit the laundry at least once during the whole time. But if you were one of the guys who actually helped us set up, like if you were just like a random customer who just lent us a hand and say, hold that light or whatever the thing was, we actually had a whole set of civilian shirts. It just did, it was like Comic Base and it said hero, and we gave those out to folks. Some other ones we had done up as shirts for folks who just helped out. We had one, they're almost like the security shirts you see in like bars and stuff like that. And we just had them up, made up this henchman. But anyway, yeah, no, I think we ought to probably get some shirts done and put them up on the website. It's, hey, it's a cool thing to do. A good idea. All right, and Larry's wait, there's more comments. Oh, yes. Yeah, wow. Okay. All right. So there's some love for the Comic T-shirts. All right. Greg says, "What about a Penguin Random House items? I guess no need for that since Diamond's allowed to redistribute from PRH. At the moment, we're not bothering with that because it's still going through Diamond. We could still match things over there. I think the one that would tip us towards, as long as we can get the same data off of the Diamond sheet and we get it at the same time, then there's no reason for us to ingest it from Penguin Random House. If the distribution situation changes, obviously that's going to be a deal. And honestly, depending on what our retailer, customers of particularly the archive edition demand, no, there's no saying we couldn't bulk out, the other stock, listings that we do. Honestly, I'm not looking forward to that, but we would do it if we had to. Okay. And Fred says, long story short, does that mean that from now all new issues begin as 25A, B, C, etc., no plain 25? I'd say if that's more the assumption than not, Fred, is when it comes down to, I'll leave your comment up, is if the publisher called it A, B, C, D, E, F, G, we're not going to argue with them anymore. Whereas beforehand, if we could tell that the A, the one they were calling A was really the regular issue and all the other ones were going to be more rare or more weird to get, then we would say, well, okay, look, that's clearly the regular one. And so we'd put that one down as 25. Now I'm done trying to read tea leaves on this stuff. And so unless I think unless they note that one is regular issue number 25, then I think we're not going to dispute them on it. And so yeah, I think it's just more the way it's going to wind up going. Because I just don't know that there's any percentage in it. If an issue comes in with only one variation, no. If there's only one, it's like Batman Scooby Doo mysteries where there is only one. That's just number 8. We're only doing the ABC thing if we have to. All right. And Jet City Comics says, like some variants, but to be honest, I'm burned out on them. Just too many variants for any given issue. Yeah, man, I I don't get it anymore. I mean, you know, when everything's a variant, nothing's a variant. I mean, I'm going back to the great quote from God, the superhero movie with the cartoon guys. The Impossibles, was that it? Am I getting that right? But anyway, okay, yeah, and Larry says, "I'm totally over the variance." Absolutely. All right, let's see. Wow, a lot of talks about variance. Agree they are over a cash grab. Yeah, this is a subject for a later show and a longer rant because I mean I'm trying to find a way to not be too glum about this stuff because it's a habit I'm trying to get away from because I think it's really good to have shows like this where we can talk like adults about a field we love, but it's not great being Debbie Downer on the whole thing. And I think if you're going to be down about something that people clearly love, man, a little goes a long way. It's like, it's like, and so I don't want to just turn on the glumness on the whole thing. But yeah, I mean, I am personally at the moment, one of my wish lists for the new year is I want to, maybe get together with Heidi McDonald or someone else. But I mean, I'm not happy with being able to decipher the numbers in the comic industry right now, because depending on who you're asking, I almost feel like we're talking past each other about how things are going and and where the collectors are and stuff like that, in terms of like the industry right now is telling you, man, things are great. $2 billion last year. We sell more copies of Dog Boy than ever. And I'm like, and I think a lot of the rest of us are going like, Dog Boy? Were we talking about Dog Boy? And then we kind of go and say, well, the sequential juxtaposition of your art and imagery to tell a story with intentional placement, blah, blah, blah. And like we say, yeah, I guess so. But there's still something like I think most of us are adults, who've been collecting comic books since we were kids, and we're thinking about a different thing than that. And I wonder if we haven't changed the definition so much that we're just kind of talking past each other. We're not really answering the question we mean to, which is, how is the thing I fell in love doing? And it's so hard getting solid numbers on that. But anyway, I think it's a topic for another time. Like I said, I don't want to get too glum on the whole thing, but the question I have on that one is, with so much money being sucked up by variants and so much of the attention being sucked up by variants, I wonder, have we completely hollowed out the kind of collector that probably we were when we started, which is to say, people want to tune in for the adventures of Spider-Man or Batman or whoever else, and once a month get the next hit, and follow that thing year after year. Have we hollowed that thing out to the point where we're the only people left in the room? So that's my worry, but there's no point worrying about something you can't put numbers to, but man, it's hard to find numbers. So anyway, that's a different show. Let's move on. Sorry about the sniffling, guys. Apologize. Let's see here. And Grace says, "Oh, I also got the no prize cover for recent issue." By the way, yeah, don't get me wrong. There are some variants that are actually pretty cool, but man, we don't need as many as we got. All right. So let's. Wow, I got. Sorry, it's one thing that StreamYard does not do is auto scroll here. Let's see here. Fred Slow says, Compass database purist. Why make a standardized text? Why make a standardized text entry field and not use separate database fields, at least for the standardized fields like 125 coverized paper type, etc. Mostly because I don't want to spread the data in the spreadsheet in the database out amongst 80,000 theoretical fields. I don't know who that benefits. We have a need in like every collector to be able to talk about the same item has to be able to say, look, what cover am I even talking about when I talk about 1C or 1D, right? And that's why we created the item description field. And that really has been as a synthesis of all these different things, just much like the item number itself is a synthesis of 4 or 5 different subcomponent fields, where you talk about, there could be a comic type or a book type or a binding type. There's it's a single, sorry, I'm gonna translate to English here, programmerese, floating point number, which is the, a decimal number, which is the issue number itself, which tells you where it falls in the sequence, and the reason it's decimals because we have half issues and 3.5 issues and 23.1 issues, and thank you, Marvel for half of those innovations at least. Um, there's a variation code, of course, and then there's a printing, and all of that whipped together becomes its item number. The item number, you need to treat that all together because that's what uniquely identifies the issue. Between those 4 bits put together, that uniquely identifies the issue when you talk through, whenever you're buying it, whenever you're selling it, whenever you're talking about whether its price went up, down, sideways, you need all 4 of those, all those bits in the item number together to even be able to talk about it. An item description is way more open-ended. For instance, not a lot of people care about paper type. I guess it plays into the idea of the weight of the comic on some level. There's the trim size. Lunar has, that information. Diamond does not. There's a million little bits of information. They're kind of interesting to somebody, but our job isn't to come up with as many fields as you could possibly associate with something, because every field you adds a certain amount of weight to the database, both in terms of uh, the size of the database itself, but also just to weight to the interface and how involved those fields get and how involved those edit screens get. It's you want really the minimum number required to get the job done, and so we do have a unified need for a way to say, look, when I say 13C, what am I even talking about? And so that's why the item description field is there, and it's also why we own it, which is to say, comic base determines there's one with a single point of truth, and you can send in corrections against it, but this is something that typically would be amongst the stuff that we send out as part of the update so that, if we expand on what 13C means, or we make a correction to what 13C means, which we hope to never do very much, certainly not to change it, in terms of what it, not to make you think it's a different variant, that's for damn sure. But we want to make it so that that's something where we're all on the same page when we're talking about 13C, whatever issue that is. Um, as far as other things that, feels like we don't try to control your notes that much. Notes are for you to add as whatever you want. Your custom fields are absolutely, completely, we don't touch them at all. That's entirely up to you. But there's a certain data that we all gotta kind of have, and we gotta share a common view of it in order to even be talking, not just entirely past each other. So that's why we did the item description. That's and why we all boil it down to this one really important field. Why we try to pass that around. I hope that was on point. Okay, let's see. Various other questions about variants. Okay. Just shells, funds. Incredible. I knew it was impossible. It drive me crazy. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, and Greg X point, yeah, even if you don't count Dog Boy, manga's still booming. Yeah, and I think that's fair. And somehow there's something in my heart that says, yeah, manga is just comics that came from a different country, or at least originated from a different country or a different country's popular style. At this point, more often, I somehow I don't see manga as being completely separate from that. So I know that's a big part of what's going on and so forth. But yeah, like I say, I don't know, man. I smell a rat a little bit with some of the methods that have been quoted in the press for how they're getting those boom numbers, and it it smells to me more like you're counting different things than you were counting 5 years earlier. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. In which case, I want to be called out on it. But it's I don't know, man. Man, I wish there were harder numbers, and I wish that we were talking, what we were counting in 1985 when we talked about comics. Even if that's not the whole market, great, that's fine. This is like it's not the whole book market, it's not the whole entertainment market. But could we get a number for the same sorts of things we were talking about in 1985? Because I'm interested in that. I'm not saying that that's good, bad, or indifferent for the future, but I just want to know. You know, I think like a lot of us, I'd like to know, is that number moving up, down, sideways, etc., or is it hollowing out? I mean, I think everyone's a big fear is it's hollowing out. I don't want to make it so that there's less people spending more of their money buying 80 copies of the same comic. But anyway, that's all me. Larry's Library says, I think collected editions, omnibuses, trades, etc., is what a lot of people switch to. They've kept much smaller subset of single issues in my collection. Yeah, I mean, it definitely is where a bunch of my spend is going. Which, by the way, a little uh, plug for something that is kind of awesome. If you guys did catch this week's order form, the second editions of the Savage Sword of Conan reprint omnibuy and the Conan the Barbarian omnibuy also just dropped. So if you guys are following, if you guys missed them the first time like I did, check with your local guy because now is the time to grab those. Those are great comic books. Anyway, neither here nor there. All right, so yeah, and Greg says, if you have an issue with what counts as a comic book, bring back John Jackson Miller for another discussion. Fight out. Yeah, like, and great idea. It's man, I gotta tell you, it's like John was the first guy I brought in as a guest and everything. And I've known him for a lot of years, and it's funny because behind the scenes, we're just chatting. Everything's great. It's like I totally know where you're coming from. Everything like, oh yeah, great, let's go. Turn on the mic, and then I felt like, whoa, crap! So much more information was exchanged before we went live than what I got out of him when we were on the air. It was like, yeah, it was the most frustrating at time. But honestly, I'm probably not that great of an interviewer. I'm going to blame myself for that one. But it's like, I don't know. I feel like I need to sharpen up my game on how to get the information I want out of people while still staying friends with them. Before I even go for a rematch on that one. But anyway, okay. So let's move on with that one. So I think we've beaten that one to death, and looks like looks like we're burning the clock pretty good. All right. So other things that are going on. Uh, with all the talk about variants, yes, we still are going to be going with our V27 through V10 million, whatever it comes down to deal with naming the covers that go beyond 26. So yes, I'm talking about you, Zetascope, but there are certainly more. Red Sonja. Um, so even if they're going for Excel style numbering or whatever nonsense they're doing in the field, now the reason we adopted version 27 through version what have you is so that we could have a single style that makes any kind of sense, extending for forward after that thing, and that it will be the way that we designate those variants. So it's going to be the same as we did before, since we had to introduce that field for. And can you believe we're having this discussion about the number of comics that went beyond version 26? Um, I will admit, in a point of just feeling low, I was looking at the listings for the latest Red Sonja versus Vampirella or whatever it was, and I was talking with the editorial staff back in California. It's like, oh man, is it too late to switch what we're doing and just, I don't know, medical billing software, which clearly would have been the way to use our talents to make more money than, than spending the same amount of effort to track a single issue of Red Sonja versus Vampirella. Because I was just making a crack. I said, yeah, I'll bet you there are more there are more variants of Red Sonja versus Vampirella than there are fatal ways to die from disease. Turned out, I don't know about fatal. Actually, that was a surprisingly hard thing to get a hold of. But I did look up medical billing, because man can dream. And apparently there is a thing called the ICD, the International Classification of Disease, of which there are 70,000 codes, 70,000 things which you either can be suffering from or at least are a symptom of something. that they might want to write up on a form someplace. And they're standardized codes apparently, and they cover everything from external factors like you drink too much to you are obsessed about dark thoughts, to sniffly nose, whatever the thing is. But 70,000, I'm thinking, okay, all right, yeah, slightly more than the number of variants for Red Sonja versus Vampirella number 8. On the other hand, we have 89, I looked this up this morning, 89,583 comics from Marvel alone. So yeah, no, if we can handle what we're doing with comic base, you're damn right we could use the same stuff and go into medical billing software. I'm just saying. All right. All right. Now, on a happier note on everything, I want to give a shout out to a couple folks. I want to congrats to Rob Weinberg. He is the newest member, recipient of the Top 10 badge. We started doing badges probably about 15, 20 years ago, just as some fun. You can look in your profile on comicbase.com and see which ones you've got. And I do not think there's a single person with all 23 in the world, including myself. But there are various accomplishments you can do. One of the rarer ones you can do is to crack the top 10 for our contributors, which is 69. In Rob's case, involved 69,582 points, which you get a point for anything you submit as far as a new data on an issue, or if you send us a picture, or so forth. But man, congrats, Rob. That is very, very impressive. Going crazier than that, there are 2 people now who are in the million point club. Frank Colasardo, I apologize for that, man. And then Andre, yeah, absolutely blowing it out with 3 million plus points. We just, I just saw his score go up this morning. Damn, man. Andre, as you guys will know, is like the absolute lord of newspapers at this point. And I like the idea of you're now Andre 3 million. So take that, Black Eyed Peas. All right, man. So let's talk about something else here. Projects we have in process. And Fred says shortly break the top 50. Well, good luck, man. At some point we probably ought to add some more badges for some other things and the whole thing, because it's been a while since we revisited all those, but I thought they were kind of fun. And Larry says hanging in at 24. Oh man, it's tussle. It's funny when you see 2 people who are very active in the whole thing, and they get into kind of a neck and neck race with each other. It's like, yeah, it's like watching the horse races. But anyway, thanks to all you guys. This, look, I mean, we've been working on this for 30 years, speaking for myself, but man, we would not have what we have without you guys. And so thank you so much for everything you guys do. We're happy to be along for the ride with some of this. All right. Projects we have in process. All right. First of all, there is a, okay. I guess I'm talking about projects in process. Then we're talking about the 2023 update. Okay. So these are things that are kind of like a little bit back burner for us, but we're kind of keeping them warm, and I just want to let y'all know about it in case you have interest. Crystal Reports, as I reported last week, finally dropped their Service Pack 33 for the current version of Crystal Reports, and it included what they call fixes to ADO connections. Which, as luck would have it, is the type that we use when connecting to databases through ComicBase. So there were a handful of people. By handful, I think the number is either 3 or 4 that I recall, that had some kind of trouble installing the 64-bit version of Crystal Reports under emulated Windows. So in other words, Windows running in like a Parallels or a VMware kind of platform on a Mac. It's something to do with the particular way that whole platform was all strung together, or what files had been added or not added to the virtualization environment. With that said, if you have had any problems with getting the current Crystal Reports running on your machine, please let me know. I'll just reach out. We certainly try to reach out to the people who had contacted us, but I don't probably want to include the Service Pack 33 of Crystal Reports in the installer unless I know it's helping someone. Because as far as I can tell, it does absolutely nothing different from what our testing has been able to do. But if it helps any of those guys, and that's the one thing I would suspect, that maybe if it has an effect, it would be for that. then we might change our mind on that one. So, if you've had any problems with crystal reports, please reach out and we'd love to talk to you. I'll just hit the Chiron on there and reach out to me right on the number below, and we should be able to get in touch and pursue that. Second question for folks, and again, these are like experimental projects we have kind of in the back burner, but we did some work on it, and we'd like to make use of it as much as possible. If you are coming in from, if you have data that you're coming in from collectors or CLZ, and or maybe you just you had data from an old copy or something like that, and are interested in that. We did some work. There's a really nice guy. His lovely wife or girlfriend bought him Comic Base for Christmas. He had a bunch of books from all over the place. He had to transfer into Comic Base, and we got like a really good look at how they were classifying and grading and doing stuff. And whew, let's just say the cleanup was pretty involved. So we did. I mean, it was just one of those problems. It kind of like, oh man, you don't, even though on one hand you sit there and say, well, wait, we do our part, right? We'll import data that you give to us as long as the data is good. That's all we got to do, right? But if the data is bad, one thing that was kind of an interesting problem is, well, how much could you sort it out automatically and pre-process it so that the poor guys coming from that platform could come to your platform a little bit more easily and more confidently match titles that, hey, you thought matching the diamond and the lunar forms were hard. Man, that was nothing compared to some of the things we got to work with there. But we just is like an experiment. We spent some time trying to figure all the different ways you could, with confidence, match and clean up this very dissimilar data into a format that was much more portable and much more easy to move around and transfer to other programs, including of course Cockbase. And we got pretty far. It's not 100% solved, but if you have data like that yourself that you either have tried moving over or you're interested in trying moving over, please reach out to me, because it's one of those things where, like, I'd like to run a few more data sets through it before I make it like an official feature of the program, if it's going to be an official feature of the program. And there's also one of these things. It's almost like training AI. You can make the algorithm smarter when you feed them more different types of test cases. So please reach out to me if you got data in that in that position. Once again, here's my information: pbickford@human-computing.com. And just like I say, I'll probably want to have you send me a particular set of fields in a particular order, so we can run through our converter and see what we come up with. So far it's been pretty darn promising. We've been batting pretty well, but I don't know if that's our best case or our worst case scenario, because we've been working with fairly small data. It's like several thousand lines of data from like just a few people. So more data is equal to better results usually for us. So please reach out if that's something that's of interest to you. All right, and let's see what else we got going on here. Dibba-dibba-dibba-doo. Wow. Okay. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. So people talking about different spots on the board and everything. And modest remind us, we get to the 45-minute mark today. As a reminder, we have a dedicated thread that Comic-Base message board, so you can request live stream topics and demos. Let's see. Oh, and Fred says, posting my first pass effort on noting Ptic covers after the Linux data update. By Ptic, I'm assuming you mean like quad tick, triptych, diptych, etc. But yeah, I'm interested in looking into that. And yes, remember, all of today's contestants receive a lifetime supply of rice roni, the San Francisco treat. All right. I thought Cockbase was in Kentucky. They have other treats there. No, not in Kentucky. No, we're just south of Kentucky. I can get to Kentucky in under an hour. I just got notes to something. There's a bourbon fest over there, which some good bands are playing at, which I just got a note on. Let's see here. All right, let's see here. Andre, shout out to Andre as well. And let's see, Tennessee, not Kentucky. Haven't had a Tennessee. What are we drinking rundown in a while? Yeah, after the show, it's gonna be something else. By the way, what if you guys are interested? The mod and I were talking about. Would anyone be interested in an after show where basically we kind of take the thing a little bit offline, but basically open it up to just kind of like a live chat between the folks who are interested, and in a way that, I don't know if it's a Zoom thing or whatever else, but just I'm definitely in a mode right now where, like, I'd like to get as much unfiltered feedback as I can from folks as we could possibly do, and honestly, after I talk for an hour, good chance for me to bust out a beer myself and, just chat. But if that's something that's of interesting to folks, if you guys wanna have, like, an after bar or whatever else on these things, just give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or, whatever, in the chat, and we'll see if we can't make something like that happen at some point. But yeah, I'd like a chance to, like, put some faces to some of the names we see here all the time, and chat, and honestly, get as much feedback as we could possibly do on stuff, just chatting, a little bit more informally, not for the record. Uh, hey, Fred says you got a few hours. Well, not tonight, I don't. But anyway, all right. Um, all right, so let's see here. Okay, yeah, all right, we're comparing all drinks here. Okay, got it. Okay, so other things going on here. So big 23.2 updates. So you guys have undoubtedly noticed we delayed that one by a little bit. We're currently two things happened. One of them is I embarrassingly discovered that we managed to misfile a bunch of pictures in Action Comics, which drove me absolutely around the bend. There were about 2 or 3 dozen pictures that somehow got dumped in the wrong folder. Um, and we had to sort that out. So it wound up being a perfect excuse for us to go back and recompress all the picture discs, which I'm always looking to do anyway. Even though I'm always caught between like wanting to ship the darn thing and put as much stuff on it as possibly. So this gave me an excuse to give into the, oh no, well, Greg's used to go back and add in some of the stuff that didn't make the last cut. So remember how we cracked like 928,000 last time I talked about. So the official number that is now on the picture discs, and you can download these all from the links under my account and then registrations, if you have a mind to, 935,228 pictures in the 4K archive edition. Should be the same number in the regular archive edition as well. But yeah, those are just posted. They're fresh in oven fresh as of about 2 days ago. So those are out there now. We're going to delay Comic Base 23.2 probably until next week because I just really, really, really want to test our Lunar stuff a lot before we put it out there as part of a forced update. Because like I say, just when we add fields like this, it impacts everything up, down, sideways in the stream in terms of how we take in data, how we pass it around between ourselves, how it goes up to you guys, how it goes to Atomic Avenue. It doesn't, again, it's a lot of cookie cutter stuff. A lot of stuff where, yeah, okay, yeah, what you did with that field is a lot like what we're going to do with this other one. But man, it's still probably about 1,500 lines of code had to change to make, those 3 new lunar fields get everywhere they need to go and get processed everywhere they need to get processed. So anytime you ask any programmer, anytime you write 1,500 lines of code, get ready to spend a lot of time testing because it's going to affect things. That's just the way of the world. But anyway, so we're looking to put that out next week probably. Also, this weekend is probably going to be a little bit late on the weekly content update for similar reasons. We're looking at Friday right now for this week's content. And let's see here. Ice water, CBAD. Oh, okay. TV thing after show. Yes. Okay. What's CBAD? I don't know. Comic Base After Dark. Oh, that's why I have to switch. Okay, that's what reading comments backwards is weird, guys. Just saying. All right. Comic Base After Dark. Yeah, God, I kinda love that actually. Yeah, let's look into it. Let me do some let me get through this stuff first, and then let's see if we can't make that happen. Because honestly, I think it'd be cool. Yeah, I would like some hang time with you guys if it's all cool with y'all. Anyway, other things that are interesting about the 23.2 update when it hits, and again, we're looking at next week for this at this point. We round the corner on 1.12 million comic books. Um it's just gonna be like an odometer reading at this point as far as how many comics are in this darn thing. And again, um, I think if we're not over 3 million books, magazines, and newspapers, we're getting awfully close. And one of the things I'd love to talk just off the record with folks on is what's the path like forward on some of these things, just as we keep on just blasting the levels of content that I've thrown out here. Honestly, I'm getting scared half the time. And I just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing with the data as we go forward, just in terms of like not just blowing everybody out, with just too much stuff. But yeah, and I have some ideas, but I'd like to get some informal feedback on that before I share them with the rest of the world. Okay, last thing I want to say before we go. Pinky the Corner, 1.2 million comics. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm sorry. I my nose is so stuffed up. I cannot do the Doctor Evil impression. But all right. I think I'm gonna save it for next time. But I do want to save for next time. I want to go through. Speaking of omnibuses, some of the things I like, and one of them is definitely the Claremont and Byrne run of Uncanny X-Men. And just finally, after ages, this weekend managed to polish off omnibus number one of that one. I've got omnibus two, on deck, which covers everything from the Dark Phoenix saga up through about the point where it all kind of went all bleh. but yeah, for my superhero dime, I'm gonna say those are probably the best superhero comic books I've ever read, just as far as a sustained run. I mean, now a lot of this has to do with just when I read them, and where who I was at the time, when I read them at the time, and so forth. What I was familiar with. But I gotta say, it holds up over time, and I mean not. I don't want to take a thing away from Len Wein, who is was even a customer, and unfortunately we lost him a couple of years back. But and I believe Glynis Wein was the colorist through a bunch of the early run of those ones. Obviously created the new X-Men, did an amazing thing. But I gotta say, man, when Claremont and Byrne took on that run, dang, they just kicked it into another gear, and it was some of the best comics I'd read. And as an adult reading this whole thing now, like 30 some years on, going back on them, I feel like I can see a little bit more of the tricks of the trade of what Claremont and Byrne were doing that made them stand out from the rest of the pack. They took what was basically like a really good superhero thing, and they turned it as like, okay, now we're talking about something we're going to remember for ages. And so yeah, I'm going to talk about that some later on. All right, guys. Well, I think that's going to do it for me. I'm losing my voice, but anyway, it's great talking with y'all, and thank you for coming. We'll see y'all next week, and we'll catch you next time. Take care. Bye bye.